not merely seeing reality, it is touching the truth.
What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to Crohnic Gamer. My name is Matt, and this is my final thoughts and review for Final Fantasy VII Remake. Okay, so I actually recorded one of these already, but it was immediately after finishing, and I was very hype with everything, and I wasn't thinking properly, and I forgot to mention a few things. So I want to re-record this review, and yeah, so basically Final Fantasy VII Remake. This was truly a spectacular game in my opinion. I enjoyed pretty much every minute of playing this. It felt true and true Final Fantasy VII game, really. It felt like Final Fantasy VII. It didn't even feel like it was something different. It felt like Final Fantasy VII. And I really couldn't have asked for more. I had pretty high expectations for this game going into it, and to be honest, it blew all of my expectations out of the water. I had a great time playing this. I would probably rate it at around a 9.5 to a 9.8, somewhere between there. I don't know for sure what the exact rating, but it's definitely somewhere around there. I wouldn't give it a perfect 10 because by far not a perfect game, but goddamn was it so fun. I think it was damn near perfect. So yeah, that would be my rating for it. First of all, I want to say that the combat was amazing. They knocked it out of the park. It was a perfect blend of full action and the old style commands that I remember from the original game, and they blended together so perfectly in a way that really made me feel nostalgic playing this. Basically, rather than just hacking and slashing away like in other games such as Final Fantasy 15 had a lot of that. God of War I never beat, but that had a lot of that. This was definitely more tactical. You had to choose commands and execute them, all while thinking about what you're doing next. And with the pressure of the battle going on, it was just absolutely amazing. They knocked it out of the park. I honestly felt like I was still playing the original turn-based style with the action that you come to expect from newer games. So I personally think the combat was knocked out of the park. I never had a point where I was like, well, this isn't fun, you know, this doesn't make any sense. So I honestly believe that the combat was probably one of the greatest things for this remake. Another thing that they nailed was the soundtrack. Now, they had pretty much all of the same songs from the original. They obviously redid them, and they were so great to hear while playing. One of my favorite songs from the original Final Fantasy is Those Who Fight, or the fighting theme song. And whenever it came on here, I just got so excited. It was really fun. They had the bomber mission, the main opening, all of that soundtrack was so great. And then at the end, when we got to fight Genova and even Sephiroth, which I wasn't expecting, but they did it so well. The soundtrack, the remakes of the original soundtrack were just amazing to listen to. And I am going to be honest, I've been listening to them in my car on the way to and from work and stuff and wherever I'm going. And I just think it's really, really, really good. I know I'm still kind of fanboying a little bit here, but it really impressed me, this game. I'm not going to lie. It really impressed me. They added a lot of great stuff, great story depth, missions that didn't exist, story, character development for characters that really didn't get a whole lot of screen time, like Jesse, Biggs, and Wedge. I mean, in the original one, yeah, they were there for the first couple of missions, but after that, they weren't there too much, and then they died, and you really felt the emotional weight behind their deaths in this version because they made them so much more likable characters, and I really couldn't ask for more. And they also added a lot of very interesting stuff, such as the Whispers, the Arbiters of Fate. I could take it or leave it with them. I guess they're there to enhance the story. They make sure that Destiny is followed. I don't really think they're necessary, but maybe they'll have more information on those in the next game. It seems like we beat them in this game, but I'm not entirely sure that's the case. Maybe it is, but it seems like we beat them as a boss. So they may be gone, but I know there's a lot of speculation going around that this is a multiverse Final Fantasy VII, and it's not the same Final Fantasy VII timeline or something completely different, like it takes place in an alternate universe or something. But I don't see any evidence to that, really. Yes, they changed a few things. Yes, they had these Arbiters of Fate. Yes, we had a fight with Sephiroth at the end. Yes, we saw Zack. And by the way, I am convinced that that was a flashback because he was talking to Cloud. Cloud wouldn't have been there. He had the Buster Sword. It just wouldn't make sense for Zack to be alive. I honestly don't think that he is. They could surprise me, but I think that Zack is still dead, and we're going to still find out that story later in the later developments. Another reason why people think that this is going to be divergent from the original game is the ending basically said the unknown journey will continue, but I think that based on what we've seen in this game, it's still going to follow the relative story. We're probably still going to get all of the same missions that we got in the original story, and they're just going to enhance and add upon it to make it more of an unknown journey, because I really felt like this was already an unknown journey, because even though I knew the main missions and the basic outline of what was going to happen in this game based on the original, I still was left wondering and curious and really anticipating stuff, because I honestly didn't know what they changed and what they didn't. And it really kept a fresh feeling for me playing this. It didn't feel stale, like, oh, I'm just playing the same game with better graphics. It really felt like a fresh new game, a new take on something that I love so greatly, and they really knocked it out of the park. So that's, I honestly think that it's going to still follow the same main story. They said that people may survive that didn't survive the first time around, or people may die that didn't die the first time around, and that's still possible. I don't think they're going to make anything too major. Like, people are speculating that Aeris is going to survive. I highly doubt that. I think that the outrage from Final Fantasy fans would be way too high, and they must know that. Like, if they change anything too drastically to the point where it's not even the same game anymore, the original Final Fantasy VII fans would be very disappointed with that. So I don't think that they would do something that bold, as in leaving Aeris alive. I do, however, think that the possibility of them killing off characters that survive to the end is more likely. We got to see Biggs is still alive at the end of this game, which was unexpected. I thought Wedge would survive, and I'm very upset that they messed with me thinking that Wedge was going to survive. But they ended up killing him anyways after all of that. But surprisingly, Biggs is still alive, so we'll get to see him. Another complaint that I had is Red 13 is not a playable character. I really would have liked that, but he really did come in towards the end of the game anyway, so it wouldn't make that much sense for him to be a playable character right now. So hopefully he'll be playable in the second game, and I'm hoping that the second game is an open world game. It'll probably take 3 games to tell this story. I'm hoping that the second one is an open world, and that the third one goes back to like this style. Or maybe it can't. Maybe it will be open world as well. I don't know. But we'll definitely have to find out. I mean, one of the things that made Final Fantasy VII so great was its big overworld. It was so ahead of its time with everything that you could do. And I'm even comparing it to games that came out relatively around the same time, like Ocarina of Time. which had much better graphics than the original Final Fantasy VII, and did have a somewhat open world. But the open world in Final Fantasy VII, even though it kind of looked ridiculous, had so much. I mean, you could travel by air, you can travel by submarine, you can travel by buggy, all sorts of different things that you can do. You can explore areas that you can only reach with certain types of chocobos, or I mean, I think it was a very big map and open world for what they were able to do at the time, and to me, it was a massive achievement. So to not have an open world aspect in Game 2 would be a big flaw, in my opinion. So that would be my expectation for the second time around. I mean, this game obviously didn't need to be open world, and I'm kind of glad that it wasn't, even though it would have been cool to just walk around Midgar and explore anywhere I wanted. But technically you could for the areas that were available, but it would have been cool if it was one big explorable city. But at the same time, it didn't have to be, so I'm definitely okay with that. Yeah, the changes to the gameplay, the materia system, all of that was great. You know, the materia system was basically the same this time around. We were able to upgrade weapons so that we can continue to use weapons. They don't become outdated. Once you just find a better weapon, you can upgrade it and make it better. I really like that system. Another complaint that I have, though, is when you're traveling from one destination to another, a lot of stuff felt a little bit dragged out. Like, so I don't know if you can really call them dungeons, but you know what I mean. Like when they're traveling to a reactor and they have to make it from one side to the other, or when they're traveling in like the train graveyard, stuff like that felt a little bit dragged out. It's like, okay, go in this room, pull this lever, do this, climb up there, pull that lever, go back down, do that. And it felt like they were just trying to pad for time a little bit in those spots. Not that it was really bad. I didn't mind it so much. It's just something that, you know, it was kind of a little irksome after a while when you've done it so many times and you're like, oh, why am I still here? We're still just walking across this. Like I said, it wasn't anything that ruined the experience for me. It's just something that was. So, yeah, maybe they can do that a little better in the next one. There's still a lot of room for improvement, but I think that they basically did a fantastic job with this game, and I couldn't be happier. And I am so excited to see where they take this franchise, and I'm going to continue to play the games no matter what. And like I said, I don't think they're going to deviate too far from the original story. Obviously, there's going to be changes. Obviously, there's going to be additions. Obviously, there's going to be... they're going to keep it fresh, just like they did this one. So that's what I think they mean by the unknown journey. But anyways, I've been rambling a little bit here, but I feel like I've covered a little more this time around than I did in my original Final Thoughts video. So again, I give it somewhere between a 9.5 to a 9.8. Could be just around a 9. I'm just going to say 9.7 at this point. I give it around a 9.7. That's a very high rating for me. I don't normally give ratings this high, but I personally think that they killed it. It was really good. So I recommend... Oh, there's a few other things that I want to say, actually. This game was great. And if you are playing Final Fantasy VII for the first time, and this is the game you go with, and you've never played the original Final Fantasy VII, you are by far going to have an amazing time, and you're going to enjoy this story. However, there are a lot of references and jokes and stuff that are said that if you didn't play the original game, they're just going to go over your head. And if you know, like I said, if you play the original game, you will probably enjoy this more than someone who hasn't played the original game. That being said, if you don't have time to play the original game and you just want to play this one, or you don't like the old style of turn-based and the blocky artwork and animation and stuff, then, you know, I say just go for it and play the Final Fantasy VII Remake. You're going to have a great time with that. So that's all I have. I really enjoyed this game. I think you will too. And until next time, I'm Crohnic Gamer. Peace.